Okay, so this I'm calling this class my choices, my life, and it really is it's it's a this is a class about understanding causality of human behavior. Okay, and everything in the world of for everything that we're arguing about is about causality in human behavior. We want to know why people think the things they think and why they do what they do and why they feel how they feel. And when you're in a profession like mine, what we're doing is we're trying to discover the answers to that. And we want to know not only about individuals, but we want to know about groups. Why do certain groups do the things that they do and not other groups? And, so we're always trying to investigate the source of the causality. And we're arguing over that all the time. We have arguments about how to address homelessness. Well, it's all about causality. Well, what causes homelessness? And then we have come to different conclusions about what causes homelessness, and then we argue about what the solution is. Or, racism, or whether racism is really a problem for people. So we want to understand human beings, and we want to sort of get there and dig into it and this kind of thing. But we're almost always, when you get into one of those late night arguments with your friends, it's almost always over causality. Okay, Izzy, next slide. So we have there are two things. And we call this lots of different things, choice and chance and so on, but I'm just going to go with really free will and determinism, or free choices and external factors. So the idea is that our free choices are what primarily shape our lives. That no matter what happens in the world, we have the ability to make choices that are different than the ones that we make. And so however I got here, there is just a long list of choices that I have made to get me right here at my age to be a professor in this classroom. A long list of choices. And that's part of life, man. There's no denying that. That is essential. Over here are the external factors and forces that shape our lives. In all of the external things, the parts of my life, where I grew up and who my parents were and everybody I met along the way and things that happened to me and a litany, a myriad, a wide range of things that I don't even see that affect me being a professor in this classroom right now. So two things, and we're in balance, always, that, things happen to me. I'm a man. I'm straight. I'm not disabled. I'm an American. I grew up in Ohio. I speak with this particular dialect or accent. I'm white. One thing after another, all these things that shape me. I never experienced homelessness. My mother wasn't disabled. My father died when I was 9. My mother wasn't home a lot to even raise me. So I spent so much time, starting at the age of 9.5, raising myself. That really impacted who I am. It shaped in very direct ways the fact that I'm here today. Okay? So all of these things, there's a long list of sociological factors and forces. And there's also a long list of choices that I made in my life. So here's what the conversation is going to be about today. It's going to be about holding the balance. Because if you don't, notice it's not or, it's and. And the smartest way to see this is to see that these two sets of variables, these factors and forces, are equally balanced out. And it's really, in the long run, in individual moments, I could say, yeah, the choice I made here was really essential. Or that thing that happened to me was really, really important. In any one given moment. But then if I think about it, I will say, wait, hang on a second. That choice I made over here was shaped by factors and forces over there. And all of these factors and forces over here were shaped by my choices over there. In other words, it's perfectly balanced. Both are happening. So in sociology, what we do is we tend to look at the ways in which human beings are shaped by these larger sociological factors and forces. Like, we tend to look for those things because that's what we do. And we also look at choices because that's really important. But as a profession, what's really interesting to us is the ways in which people's lives are shaped by things that they don't see. Okay, that's why we're always talking about things like racism and discrimination and poverty in particular, wealth, power, all of these things that are operating behind the scenes that a lot of people will say, like, oh, why are you always focusing on that? Because we want to understand how these things, the whole field emerged as a way to understand how these things really shape people, right? Opportunity. How does opportunity shape things? The occupation of your mother or your father or whatever. This is what we do. So here, go to the next slide, if you will. So we do things like this. We're like, hey, you know what? These giant sodas that y'all are drinking all the time, you can drink the giant soda. That's fine. But we've run the numbers. We've analyzed in large groups, in entire societies, the impact and the cost of lots of people drinking those big giant sodas on a regular basis. And what we see is, man, it's really costly. It costs all of us a lot because it has a negative impact on public health. In fact, it costs us in the billions of dollars. It costs society for people to drink these diet sodas. And so people like me come along and we say, hey, look, man, we really ought to think about curtailing the use or the consumption of these big, huge diet sodas or whatever they are, these carbonated fruit sugar drinks that we're drinking all the time because it really is costly. And then people come along and they say, well, wait, you can't curtail people's behavior like that. Like, you can't do that. And we say, yeah, okay. Well, let's balance it out. When can we? So, we start to kind of add up the costs of soda. At what point, it costs money, billions of dollars, it costs us as a society, right? Because it's healthcare. You got to pay. When people get sick later in life, we pay for that. And, that's what happens. People are not just dying in the streets here. In the end, you will get some kind of medical care, and we'll pay for it. We all pay for it. So it's going to cost money. And we can all say, like, yeah, but that's fine. We can have diet sodas or have sodas, And then we say, okay, but wait, but how much does it have to cost before you say, yeah, I don't know, maybe we should think about that? Like 1 billion? 2 billion? 5 billion? 50 billion? At what point in time would every person in this room say, if it's going to cost us that much, I think then maybe we should ban them. And maybe some of you would say, no, we should never ban them under any circumstances. People should be free to drink diet soda if they want. And you might be one of those extremists that would say, yeah, and people should be able to drive as fast as they want on the streets of State College. Because if they want to drive 100 miles an hour down College Avenue, then you should be free to do that. But of course you don't do that. Everybody has some point in which they're going to take freedom away from other people and say, you don't get to have that free choice. Okay? So let me give you an example. Secondhand smoke in public health. The parks in State College, the parks in State College, you cannot smoke a cigarette in those parks. Even if there are no children around, you cannot smoke a cigarette, secondhand health. So we do curtail human behavior. We do that. So what we do, we see these structural factors and forces, and we say, you know what? This is good for society, or this is bad for society. And so what we need to do is we need to have kind of limits or enablements on human behavior. This is what we're arguing with all the time. If you listen to all the policies coming out of Washington, it's just this, constantly, okay? So people like me who are trained to kind of look at some of this stuff and say, you know, man, personally, what I can see, the giant sodas that people drink they're more problematic than secondhand smoke in these parks around the country. You're outdoors. Kids are rarely going to be taking that in, but these sodas, this is actually a problem. So maybe you want to think about it. And so what we're doing all the time, so you got people like me then, we're standing in this space of causality and structure, and we're like, I don't like to have my freedom impinged upon. Like, I really don't. I like to be able to do the things I want to do. But I'm willing to have my freedoms impinged upon. Like, for example, I won't drive 40 miles an hour down College Avenue. Like, I won't do it. Even if you tell me you can, I won't. But tell me you can't, because I don't want other people doing it too. That's fine, right? But I got a lot of other things where I'm like, I don't know about that. And in fact, the ideal society is a society in which people are as free as they can possibly be, with some constraints on behavior, because we always have constraints on behavior. Okay? All right, so this is what we're wrestling with all the time. Now, you get it? We got that, right? So we're going to have a conversation here, and I'm going to walk us through how difficult it is to straddle the line where we understand that freedom, free will, and structural factors and forces are always in play at every single moment. Because generally speaking, what happens is we go over into one camp and we spend much more of our time thinking about those things. Like, but these people had a choice. The people in prison, but they made a choice. And in the end, you sort of plant your flag there. In the end, they made a choice. And what I will say is, you know what? Of course they did. I got it. There's no question about that. Yeah, everybody make choices. You all make choices to be here or to not be here. Some of you won't do the readings and watch the videos for the exam, and so you won't do well. You made a choice. But at the same time, every example of people making a choice, we can find a whole range of factors and forces that are also in play. And so we're going to have a conversation in which we try to walk through how these two things are operating always at the same time. And if you can do that, and if you can remember it, you will be a whole lot smarter. You just will be. Because you can't, and that when sometimes you see me, like in this class, I feel like I'm really wishy-washy. Like I'll say one thing and I'll say the opposite. It's because this is in operation with me at every moment. Okay, cool. So next slide. So I'm going to introduce you to somebody who's a former student who's here recruiting for Teach for America. So if you're looking for a job, you might want to talk to him afterwards. There's some people you may not want to talk to, but yeah, if they're in here, they're good. Will dude, I don't want to blow you up. I won't have to blow you up. Dude, this guy's a winner. And my sister-in-law had a conversation with him not long ago and said, man, that Will, he's a winner. Will was in this class when he started when he was 17 years old, and he used to sit right here. Years, I don't know, it was like 12 years ago, maybe? A long time ago, man. And one time, I gave him the microphone, and he started talking, and I said, oh, damn, dude, hang on a second. And I sat down in his seat, and they said, you come stand up here and just talk. And so he talked to the class for about 10 minutes or so. I didn't forget what you were talking about, but it was really interesting. And so when Will comes into town, I like to have him in class to talk a little bit about Teach for America, but also I can think of no better human, I can think of nobody in my life whose life is better able to help us understand how free will and determinism are operating at exactly the same moment for every single issue in the world that involves human beings. Every single issue. Doesn't matter. They're all happening together. All right, man. So, welcome, man. This guy. Dude, you got an ovation before you even started. Just got here, man. Nice shoes, by the way.
Yeah, thanks. I had to wear them to the career fair.
You can tell. You can see everybody who's dressed up around here.
Yeah.
He wasn't there. He's in his slippers, man. No, he wasn't there.
He's like, why you got to do me like that, man?
Yeah. Listen, okay, so I want to have a conversation with you, and here's the line. We're going to use this line, okay? And on one side of the line is the free will argument, and the other side is the determinism argument. And I'm going to start asking you questions. We're going to talk. I'm going to ask you questions. You're going to ask me questions. And we're going to just keep seeing where we get on one side of the line or the other.
Yeah. That sounds good.
And we want to keep going back and forth. Remember, the goal here is to make us smarter. And it's not very smart to get stuck on, oh, yeah, but those people or that person, but they had a really, rough life or whatever. I don't know. They had a tough life. So we need to understand that. Okay, yeah, that's cool. You had a tough life. But they also made decisions. And so you're here and you're here and you're here and you got to stay there. You never want to stay on one side or the other. So, bro, here's my first question to you, man.
No, that's real. I'm excited for this conversation, man. This is really good. I think free will and determinism is a really hot topic in our culture. So let's see where this conversation takes us, man.
Let's see where we go. So listen, man. How'd you get here?
Okay.
Like how'd you get here?
Okay, how did I get here? Okay, let me give you a quick rundown.
Wait, stand right on the line, too.
Let me give you a quick rundown.
You don't have to face me, but stand on the line.
So how I got here, all right, I am the child of immigrants from Sierra Leone. I was born in New York City, and I lived there till I was about like 8 or 9, then I moved to Philly.
Okay, hang on, man. So right there, you're now back up. So he's in structure mode, right? Because he's immigrants already, child of immigrants from Sierra Leone. Okay. Yeah. So he started right there. So we're in this. All right, go ahead, man.
Yeah, I went to Philly public schools. Anyone from Philly here? Yeah, go Birds. Huh? Y'all not real Philly fans. Anyway, so I was in Philly. I went to Philly public schools growing up, right? So for anybody that's in Philadelphia, you know that the school system, the way it works, we have zoning laws where students, when I was growing up, I don't know what it's like exactly right now, but when I was growing up, you had to go to your neighborhood school, the school that was in your zip code, no matter how good or how bad it was. The only chance that you had to go to a better school in Philadelphia was if you tested out to a special admission school or you won the lottery system for a school. And most kids didn't win the lottery or didn't test out.
They wouldn't allow them to?
No, they would play it, but if you didn't win the lottery for a school, you didn't go.
Yeah. Okay. So right now, so you're talking.
So this is me in 8th grade, by the way. So I'm like 13 years old. That's
okay, so you're in the world of structure.
Yeah,
right?
this is structure.
These
right
are
now.
all the things that we want to know about sociologically. So he's not said a single thing about himself, whether he wanted to go to one of those schools or whether no decisions that he made or his parents made or anything. So he's staying right there. Okay.
Right. So here's the thing, though. In 8th grade, I worked really hard. I did my work. I was involved in school.
All right, hang on, man.
Right?
Hang on. Now you're here. Now he's here, right? See how he moved? Okay,
I
go
did
ahead.
well on the state test, and because of that, I was actually given a special admittance to a public magnet school.
Why do you think you did well on the state test?
Why do I think I did well on the state test? I had
Come back in the middle. Come back, stand right on the line here, right? Why'd you do well on the state? You're gonna have to say something that's either your choice or something here.
Why I did well? Well, for one, I went to a pretty good middle school because we moved into a good zip code, right? But the thing is, I worked really hard.
Why'd you work really hard?
long
Why?
hours, and it's because being the child of immigrants, right? Any child of immigrants here? Yeah, y'all know how your parents are really hard on you, right? You didn't come to this country just to waste your opportunity, right? So I worked really hard because not only because my mom told me to, but it's like I understood just, being an immigrant, you want to make the most out of every opportunity.
Wait, hang on. So let's do this. Everyone who raised their hands, how many of you have parents who actually didn't care if you studied hard? Who told you, yeah, it doesn't really matter? A few. Okay? No, the immigrants, right? Just the immigrants. Your parents didn't really care? Couple? Okay. So therefore, were your parents making a choice to tell you? Were they making a choice to tell you to work hard?
Were they making a choice? I mean, listen, they had a whole list of choice and chance of what brought them here, right? And so, in a way, it's both, right? But they were making a choice. Well, I don't even know. Right?
There you go. So you're now in the center. You're now in the center.
Right in the center. Because if we look, how many child of immigrants, raise your hands again? Look at that. And how many didn't care if you did? How many of your parents they weren't that involved in your academics, didn't really care? Just
one kind of. That's
kind
it.
of, right?
One
He's like,
kind of. Yeah, okay.
Right. Oh, okay.
So one parent was
most of
not
it. So it's
immigrant.
like when I see that, and I don't know if y'all had a chance to look around the room. When I see that, it's like, did my immigrant parents make that choice? Well, sociologically, it doesn't seem like they did, even though to me it kind of does.
You get that? You get that? They didn't, but they did. Okay? When every immigrant parent does the same thing, now this is where the sociologist comes in and says, I'm not really sure they're making that choice. It's really, in a way, it's like everybody wore shoes here today, right? Y'all wore pants. So y'all wore shoes. Nobody came barefoot. Well, maybe you didn't make the choice. Is that really a choice? Really? Does it matter? See, I'm thinking sociologically. Don't take a hit off a joint and go yeah, man, I don't know. Yeah, okay? It's not like that. Okay, so go ahead. But nonetheless,
so this is all at 13. I'm 8th grade, right?
Yep.
And so I tested out. I got into a magnet school in the city, right? In Philly, there are a few good, of the public schools, they have a few really good magnet schools that do pretty all right, okay? So I went to a magnet school in high school, did well, played lots of sports.
You worked hard.
I worked hard. I worked my A off. This is what the kids say. I locked in and lucked out, right? So
why did you? What choices were you making in your head? So forget about your parents' voices.
The choice that I was making in my head was that, number one, I wanted to go to school on a scholarship so I wouldn't be riddled with debt when I graduated.
You knew that at 13?
I knew that at 13. I knew that at 13 because one of the things, I also grew up in a low income household, right? So I also knew that, like, if I wanted to go to college, if I wanted to go to a really good college, I needed to do everything in my power to make sure that I got there, whether I was like athletics, whether I was through academics. When I was in my senior year, I applied to 13 scholarships.
Okay, hang on though. So you're now up here.
I'm all the way up here.
I'm
all the way up here.
You're
I'm
freedom.
locked in.
He's locked into freedom. Okay, but hang on. I want to know, like, but it's not that it's. I'm not saying you're not making it. Somebody must have been there for you, besides your parents.
Yeah, of course.
Counselors.
I would be foolish to say, oh, I got it out the mud by myself, right? There was a lot of circumstances that actually influenced my mindset that made me really self-driven in a really cool way.
Okay,
but
wait.
even more than that.
Okay, wait. Hang on. Listen, you understand? We're being intellectual here, right? I'm not telling him, oh, you didn't. I'm not bringing him down. I'm not saying, hey, Will, you didn't necessarily achieve all that. You had all this. No, we're not doing that. This is not about responsibility and all that kind of stuff. This is about intellectual understanding. So I stopped him to say, yeah, you made all those choices, but now, wait, what was behind those choices too? You got it? This is intellectual understanding. So what were some of the things that helped you with those choices?
Yeah, no, Sam, and I think I really appreciate where you're pushing the class to go, right? Because oftentimes when we look at our life, when we look at our choices, we just think, oh, I just made good decisions. But I can tell you that when I reflect on my choice, there's always a cause that I can like pinpoint of just like what allowed that choice to happen. Whether it was an option, whether it was an opportunity.
What helped it to happen?
Well, yeah, what helped
Because
it
it
to
is
happen.
also a choice, man. It is also a choice. I don't want to diminish that.
No, we're not going to
Okay.
diminish that, right?
Okay.
But the thing is,
So stay on the line.
I'm
Stay
going
right on the
to
line.
stand on the line,
Okay.
right? Because we want to get there, right? We can talk about choice and even what that means, right? But let's stay like here right now, right? So it is a choice. So I made choices, but here's the thing. So I just told y'all from the age of 13, I knew that I wanted to go to college on a scholarship. That was a driving factor for a lot of the choices that I made in high school. Why did I want to go to college on a scholarship? Because I came from a low income family and I knew that paying for college was going to be really difficult if I didn't do that. So how did that impact my choices? Well, listen, I was really athletic, so I played 3 sports: football, basketball, track and field. And I was like, hey, listen, I'm going to go to school with D1, D3, something. I was also really good at studying. And I was really good at school. And I had really good teachers that when I was struggling, spent extra time, helped me, supported me, helped me overcome barriers in my own academics. And then now let's talk about senior year.
Wait, hang on. I want to hold. So you went from choice here, right? His choice. Like, this is me. I worked really hard. I decided I needed a scholarship. Because, man, there were a lot of kids that you were in your neighborhood that they also were poor, and they were also wanting to go to college, but they didn't work as hard as you.
They didn't. Well, let me tell you this. There are some people that did, right? But if they worked just as hard as I did, or even harder, and they were at a non-magnet school, they're looked at way differently in the college admissions process.
Okay, so
that's number one.
That's cool. You won the lottery there in that one spot.
Well, it was a special admission, so I tested into it, but it is also a lottery system in that regard. So I did get lucky.
Okay.
In a way.
Mm-hmm. So
it's personal merit with opportunity.
And then some of it is just your brain, man. You
have a
good brain.
Brain power, right?
Yeah. You got that Sierra Leone brain, man. Whatever it is.
Okay, yeah. So that's how it works. Now let's go to senior year.
All right, senior year.
Senior year. Are there a lot of first year students in this class? Show of hands. All right, so y'all get how I operate. Show of hands. I'd like to see who's in the room.
Oh, wait, hang on. I got one more thing.
And they're all sitting in the middle, too, by the way.
Yeah. I got one more thing. Jamie just told me your body too. You play football. You play sports. Man.
Yeah.
So you didn't have a disability. You were coordinated.
Yeah,
you had good eyesight.
Yeah.
Okay, so that also played a role. But go ahead.
That also plays a role, right? And so, like, listen, it's like what Sam is doing, right? It's like, as I speak about the different choices that I make, there's also a lot of things that enable me to make choices, right? The fact that I was tall, right, allowed me to like have the choice to like try out for the basketball team, right? And I had a better chance of making it compared to someone who was short. Matter of fact, I actually tried out with my best friend in 9th grade. We both were cut from the team, so that's not. But we tried out again my sophomore year, and then I was selected, he wasn't, and that was the end of our friendship. Not really, but you get the point, right? But there's just so many different factors. So let's talk about senior year. Let's talk about the college admissions process, because this is where it gets, for my first year students, you know exactly how tough it can be. For one, what college do I go to? 2, am I good enough to even get into this college? 3, can I get money for this college? All right, so let's talk about that.
At what point now are your parents? At what point now is your family really involved in things? Right.
So my family didn't necessarily have to be involved. I was very self-driven in high school. I was very self-driven in high school.
Okay. So you understand. Will, he's a winner, man. This guy is cool, right? And as you can tell, he's cool. I mean, my God. So look, I knew when he started working for us at World in Conversation, and Lori and I knew, everybody knew that he was going to go places, man. You were going to go to med school and do all of that. And
then other choices happened.
yeah. Okay, but look, he's the guy. He's the guy who everybody points to and says, he did it. He did it. Anybody else can do it. And it's true to a degree. Like, I don't even say that. It's like, it makes no sense to even say that, because he did do it. And look, man, I know there are people on the stream who are just like, who are going to just rip me up because they're going to think, and some people in here are going to think like, I'm somehow saying that he didn't achieve all of this, or like he's not responsible for it all, or whatever the case is. But no, I'm trying to be as smart as I can possibly be. And the only way to be as smart as I can possibly be is follow all your choices and then see what was also happening behind the scenes. Yeah. Okay, so.
No. So Sam, actually on that point, the thing that you said was really important, right? Because what Sam was speaking about is like this culture that we are obsessed with in this country with choice. The fact that if he says, wait, but there are factors that actually helped you achieve, why does that diminish my personal merit? Yeah. We live in a culture that says that it does diminish your personal merit. That's why if someone says, oh, hey, I work hard, but someone say, but you had rich parents and you took SAT tutoring, and then you feel like that's a personal attack. So that's a cultural issue. But I'm going to get back to my story. We can circle back to that if someone has a question about that. But I wanted to speak on that. So speaking about SAT tutoring. So I'm coming here. I was like, oh, Penn State is a good school, right? Not too many kids from my school go to Penn State. So I was like, all right. There was a football player who went there, but he went there on an athletic scholarship. I wasn't getting recruited for D1 football. I was good, but I wasn't that good. But anyway, so I'm like, all right, how do I get to Penn State, right? Now that's the challenge. Okay, I got to take the SAT. Man, how do I prepare for the SAT? So this is the spring of my junior year. I'm like, man, how do I prepare for the SAT? Some of you in this classroom probably started taking the PSAT, had SAT tutoring by your sophomore year, and I was already like, man, I'm cooked, right? That's what you. So anyway, take the SAT, I take the ACT, I try to look for free resources because I go online, I see that the classes are $2,000, and I was like, yeah, buddy, I can't afford that. I'm on free and reduced price lunch. That's not happening today. So. I do my best, and really strong GPA. But then when I was just looking at my application, I was like, all right, listen, I'm not in the top 1% of the SAT testers. I'm right under that median, but let me just take the shot and I'm gonna apply to Penn State anyway. So while my application was getting reviewed, there was this organization, a nonprofit organization called Philadelphia Futures, and what they did was like they try to provide and create opportunities for students in the inner city to attend some of the most elite colleges in the country and help them matriculate through, right? Graduate from college. So there was this woman from the program who connected me with a recruiter from Penn State, who then, I don't know what she did. I don't know if this had an impact, but she just helped me out a lot in this admissions process, getting me connected to the right people. And I find out I'm accepted to Penn State. It was like a really big deal. But then I was like, man, I don't know if I can go to this school because I can't afford it. I mean, the tuition is even way more expensive now than I was. I don't know how y'all doing it. I definitely couldn't afford it today. So then now I'm still in this like area of determinism because I'm just like, wow, how am I going to go to school? Philadelphia Futures, I told you in the beginning, I applied to 13 different scholarships. I got rejected from every single one except the one from Philadelphia Futures that gave me enough money to come up to Penn State on a full ride because of my academic merit and my character traits, right? And then even more so, there was another layer that happened, right? Where so I was like, oh, I'm at Penn State. This is really cool. I'm super excited to come here, right? One day, so I was also an alum of the Honors College, okay? Now, how that happened was I was like, I barely got into Penn State as is, as far as I know, because I don't really know what they saw, right? But I'm just thinking, like, I'm like 17 at the time, like, I barely got into Penn State.
So you're thinking I barely got in.
I'm thinking I barely got in,
But
but I don't really know.
Yeah.
I don't really know what they saw, right? So,
Well, hang on. But you see, you hear him now. He's not that different now than he was when he was 17, sitting here. So clearly they saw something.
right.
Okay.
So then I'm walking, I'm like, what's this, like fourth period history? I don't remember. I'm going to the bathroom, and I pass my college, my high school AP counselor. And she was like, yo, hey, yo, Will. I'm like, yeah, what's going on? You know that the Honors College is actually here right now. I was like, no, I didn't know that. He was like, your name wasn't on the list? Name was not on the list. I had to go back to class, miss. He said, no. I'm going to write you a pass. Drop what you're doing. You need to go up there right now. You need to speak to somebody right now. I think you can get in. I was like, what? I don't know. She's like, just go up there. So I go up there, and then speaking to the recruiters from the Honors College, and I was just like, man,
From Penn
listen.
State Schreier Honors College.
The Schreier's Honors College. I was like, listen. They're bragging about their statistics. They're like, everyone who got in here has a perfect SAT score, or they scored in the top 99 percentile. I was like, buddy, that wasn't me. So I don't know what you want here. And they was like, but listen, but we evaluate the candidate holistically. We're going to give you 3 essays to judge your character and fitness, and we'll evaluate you based on that, and then an interview. And then we'll see what happens. And then the rest is history. I applied, I interviewed, I got in, and they also gave me money, right? But the thing is, had I not went to the bathroom on that day at that time,
Yeah.
a lot of things would not have happened.
There's a lot of chance right there.
Right.
Had you not taken it up, had you not, all these things. So here.
Had I not done that, yeah.
So we're on the line, right? You're giving us lots of stuff where you're in the front of the line. You're giving us lots of stuff where you're behind the line. And in the end, to me, it evens out and you're on the line.
Right.
So here's what I want to ask you. What part of Will's story is most important? The things that happened to him? Can you go back 2 slides, Izzy? The external factors that shaped his life, or the free choices that he made? Which is more important? Or are they equally important? You see what I mean?
Sam, we got a volunteer over here. He actually wants to share his thoughts. Oh, you got him? Yeah, Mike.
No, I was gonna say, I think it what really stands out to me about your story is the fact that you, the whole story in the bathroom happened, But if you wouldn't have been prepared, and if you wouldn't have
Yeah.
basically been preparing yourself for years with that ambition and knowing what you wanted and going after it, working hard for it, it would have been worthless. And I think that goes to show that it doesn't really matter what opportunities fall in your lap. If you don't work your tail off for it and prepare for it, it doesn't matter if it falls in your lap. You're not going to be ready.
So you're like, it's equal. They're both equal, right? What I want to say to you all is, if we had come in here and I just said, and I didn't say anything about this slide and anything about what I'm talking about, I just say, hey, Will, just tell your story a little bit. Every one of you, almost every one of you, you'd be leaning toward Will's free will. Be like, oh, it's his free will, it's his choices that mattered. Or you'd be leaning toward factors and forces that really he couldn't control. You'd be saying, oh, those are the most important things. But here we are in the space where I'm just hammering away to be like, no, it's got to be both. It has to be both. Which is not,
to be.
how does me, so here's a question I have, especially for the stream, but anybody in here, how does me saying that about Will, that it has to be both, they're both working together, how does that diminish his accomplishments?
Can I add something to this?
Yeah.
I feel like, Well, I'm here.
Yeah, go for it.
I feel like in this very specific scenario, you were so driven from such a young age, and you kept going at it, and you kept going at it. We can talk about all the outer aspects of the things that drove you to it. You said you're from immigrant parents and so on and so forth. But because you kept going at it, you were locked in. You didn't stop. That's why I feel like it would be diminishing your hard work if you would say the opportunities just fell into your lap. You had to go out and grab it from somebody. You had to physically take it out of somebody else's hand.
Yeah.
Like, I get it that you say there's a certain level of chance that comes up to it when you are going to the restroom, you said?
Yeah.
And you found somebody. But I have no doubt, I mean, granted, I just met you, but if it wasn't that scenario, if you had attended your history class, then your teacher would have seen that this guy is not normal. He's obviously a few calibers above everybody else because of that drive. And that's why, regardless of that specific scenario, I feel like you would have gotten in. My question, if you don't mind me asking, is...
Go for it.
When you said that from a very young age, you knew what you wanted to do, and you knew that there was this responsibility that it wouldn't be possible for you to attend a university had you not gotten a full ride or a full scholarship. Obviously, there are certain traits that helped you physically, academically, your drive, so on and so forth. But do you think that this, if you don't mind me taking a slightly psychological trait to it, do you think that this ability of being an immigrant and being the fact that you have to take care of yourself, you have to take care of your parents, there's no backup plan, that it all relies on you, and the fact that because of this, it's the sense of fitting in, even that you said that you came to Penn State, but you thought you barely got in. You didn't think that you were of the caliber of a Streyer's honors college.
At the time.
Exactly, at the time, obviously. But do you think it's this lack of ability of seeing yourself fitting in that drove you to pursue greater heights?
Yeah, so the question is, do I think how I perceive myself like influence my drive?
Yeah.
Exactly. Is that...
This is good.
But here's the thing.
Yeah.
The reason I really like your question, because your question underscores two important themes that I want people to like really lock in, right? And pay attention to. Number one, you emphasized, and you as well, you emphasized my personal merit and drive. That's like, yo, listen, if you weren't ready for the opportunity to come, then you would have missed your chance. So you had to be ready. Number one. So that's really important, because right now we're talking about this importance of personal merit. But here's the thing. When it comes to personal merit, this is point two. You asked me, did certain factors, right, like how I saw myself influence my drive? When I reflect back on the choices that I've made and the things that I've done and where that's come from, a lot of things like externally influenced that. Being the child of immigrants, being a young black male, being from a low income community, feeling like the odds were stacked against me, feeling like I had to work twice as hard
Yeah, but
in an unfair society, right? So this is I had this understanding from a really young age.
Yeah.
And this understanding was derived from how I understood and navigated the external factors that were shaping me.
okay, but here,
Right?
I got a but we got a problem here. No, but we got a problem.
Yeah, no,
You gotta explain
This is a
this to
good
me.
problem to have.
No, listen. There's a lot of kids
Yes.
in your old neighborhood
Yeah.
and lots of other neighborhoods
Yeah.
all across the country
Yeah.
who didn't do what you did.
Of course.
And for whatever reason, they didn't have whatever they needed to have to do what you did.
Exactly.
So we look at them and we say, hey, it's your fault. Like, you should have done that.
Yes.
And now me as a sociologist, here's what happens.
Yeah.
This is where people are going to say, oh, Sam, you're just saying they're the victim of a
Yeah.
racist or discriminatory system.
Yeah.
And I'm going to say, no. I'm not calling these other kids who didn't do what Will did, I'm not calling them victims of a racist discriminatory system. That's not what I want to say right now, okay? Or what I'm implying. But what I want to know is, dude, be as smart of a sociologist as you can be and tell us, why didn't those kids do what you did? Why did so many of them not do what you did? Because this is a fair question, right? Because it's freedom and it's structure, right? It's freedom. We can say, oh, they made the choice to not do what Will did, so we get stuck in freedom. But wait, hang on a second, man. But remember, structure is an operation too. So help us understand why they
this
didn't
is
do
a
that.
really juicy question too. So Sam, I'm gonna answer your question, but I'm gonna expand it a little bit, right? I want to expand it a little bit.
Get in.
So one of the things I want to speak about, right, when it's like, oh, why didn't they do it, right? It's a really good question because
And now you're back here in the structure side, okay?
Why don't certain people do it, right? Well, it's like, man, where do I want to take this? Give me a second. For one, I don't fully know, right? I can't explain fully the behaviors of others from their personal lived experience unless I get to know them, ask them really good questions. I can look at the external factors, I can look at the data, I can predict, I can see like, oh, they were more likely to do this, but I need to know them on a personal level. But here's the thing, I'm gonna get to your question, Sam.
Yeah, because
Here's the thing,
I'm asking you.
I want to expand on it right now.
Okay,
Right?
all right.
Because one of the things that you said was like, but I personally made better choices. I locked in. I worked hard. I applied myself. Y'all worked hard. You got here. But here's the thing. I want to push you. I want to push every single person in this classroom and on the stream to think about why choice is so important. More importantly, why is it when we say that people made bad choices, what does that mean and what do we gain from that?
Maybe I have an answer to that.
Right?
I have an answer to that.
We explain, like, that's such an easy answer. I'm here because I worked hard. They're here. They're not here because they didn't work hard. They made bad choices. That's honestly one of the laziest things I've ever heard, to be honest.
Well, it's
super lazy.
It's lazy. Okay.
It's
okay,
super
look,
lazy. Because the thing is, it's not saying that choice doesn't matter, but I'm saying it's a really lazy and a simple answer.
Okay.
Because-
For a sociologist,
Because y'all can see, I want to say, because like, there's some people who like, they didn't really work hard, but they're here,
yeah.
They're here. Their choices didn't matter. But the choice of like, oh, these people didn't work hard, it's lazy as hell. Man.
Maybe.
But go for it.
Yeah, maybe it's because it's the only thing we can control. It's one thing that we can't control, which is our choices. And see, this is why people, they call sociologists like the
Oh, what? Excus-iology, right? That's what they call it.
Excus-iology. Like, so you might be thinking, and definitely some people, I know people on the stream and the chat are going off.
They're about to cook us, right?
Because they're thinking that I'm like, hey, Will, come up with an excuse for why these other people didn't do that.
Right.
I'm like, I don't want an excuse. I want a really smart, thoughtful, intellectual understanding for why they didn't. We know they didn't choose. We know that.
Yeah, they didn't choose.
like-
but I can tell you, my most thoughtful answer is that they had external factors that shaped their behaviors a lot more than we give credit for. That's what I will say. Personally.
Dude, I got that. Dude, you can stop right there. That is the answer right there.
Can I actually disagree politely?
No, you can disagree, but I want to hear from him. Yeah.
Yeah, so I had like an original question, but after hearing you two talk, I want to go in the direction of, is choice really free if you lack awareness? So like you talked about the program that was set up within like the inner city but like within Philadelphia. And if this choice is really free, and if they work hard enough to overcome their circumstances irregardless, what if I didn't even like know that university was possible? Like, what if you never immigrated and you never like you grew up with a different culture? Like, and you can work as hard as you want. If we have specific areas that are so impoverished that either you lack awareness or it just doesn't feel possible, do you have free choice?
Let me flip.
That's a $1 million question, right?
Yeah, but I want to flip it. For many people in here, how many, right? And really raise your hand. Think about my question. I want you to raise your hand. How many people in this classroom would say that not going to the university was actually think about your family, think about all your friends, think about all your relatives. For how many of you was not going to the university an option? A realistic option. Yeah, I didn't really have to go. Everything would have been fine. Life would have gone on. Raise your hands really high. Dude, that's not many people, man. And then I'm going to ask you, is your being here, all of you people who didn't raise your hand, so following what he just said, is that really a choice? Was it a choice to come here? Like, so this is the intellectual side, right? So we're not making excuses.
We got them engaged. There's a lot of hands going.
Yeah, so like we're not making excuses. We're just saying. Here.
Yeah, no, we're not making excuses. This is good.
I want to go back to something that can you go to, can we? All right, go ahead,
questions.
Mom.
No, because
go ahead.
we got them right now. They're really asking good questions.
All right, Mom.
I just want to say, like, with that, how you said, like, the opportunity, like, I don't really have to be here. Like, I could choose to walk out of these doors right now and say, like, oh, I don't want to be in college anymore. I could say, like, I don't want to be in college anymore. But also going off his question over there about, like, they don't know, like, the opportunities they have. Sometimes if you, with that free will, if you work hard enough, like, if you choose to get the good grades, if you choose to, get the good stuff, get into that good school, then sometimes, those opportunities will present themselves to you. So it all depends on, your situation and what opportunities are presented from that situation.
Okay, but listen, you just said something that I really need to go back. You have to restate this. You said if you choose to get good grades, if you choose to whatever, and what we've already set up here is, dude, you're standing on this side of that line right here. But you got to go back to this side because nobody just chooses to get good grades. You're also, every moment of your life is being shaped by other things, everything. So you are choosing and other things are happening. You see that, right? Like you understand, you got to be in both always at the same time. You have to be in both.
Like it's not an either or thing, and I think that's when I say like it becomes really lazy, right? Where it's like, oh, but I chose to get good grades, then I created opportunities for myself. Not really, man.
Look,
it's different. Man.
I want to show you this. This is average SAT scores by family income. This is 2013, but I just use that because the graphs are really nice. Look, your family income. What's family? The SAT score is largely the best IQ score that we have and that we use. What's the intelligence of somebody? It's SAT, it's ACT. Look at how it goes up with family income. Dude, those of you who scored well on the SAT, was it your choice to be born in a family that had higher income? Like, did you make that? Is that a choice? That's things
Right.
that are happening behind the scenes that you don't even know about.
Or even more importantly, right? If we say that this is a choice, then how does the freedom of choice explain something like this? Do people who are richer just make better choices? Right? But then you got to take into fact that these are kids, right? So if you believe completely in free will, then you have to say, how do we explain something that like income can predict how well you do on a test?
Yeah.
And if you're not able to explain that, I again go back to the idea that you're not thinking deep enough.
That's the best
Really?
one, right? If you choose to work really hard, if you choose to study really hard, if you choose, all the things in your mind, but still, one thing strangely that's operating behind the scenes is your family's income's actually facing this. Look, he is at the bottom, but he had high SAT scores. Okay,
Right.
that's fine. There are outliers. There are people who had high family income with low SAT scores.
Right.
That's all good too. But the point is, straddle these two things.
Gotta straddle 'em.
Never don't hold them together.
And I'm gonna say one last thing too. You got to straddle because I know we're starting to come to the end of this class, and there's a few good questions. The question I'm gonna ask again, I asked it before, is like, what is there to be lost if we understand that the things that we see, the choices that we made, or the outcomes in society in our life are not purely because of choice? Because when you ask me these questions and when I hear people responding to these conversations, it comes from a really defensive place. As if we're taking away your personal merit, as if we're taking away your hard work, as if we're taking away everything from you. And it's like, what is there to be lost?
Okay, and
Think about that.
You got to say one more. You got to say the other thing though. You also have to say, and everything that you achieve is also because of your personal choice. You have to say that too. You have to say that. Yeah, because you just said the other, so you got to say the other side.
Yeah, your personal choice, right? Just because you have opportunities, just because things impacted your personal choice, that does not take away your merit. But you also have to understand that your merit was allowed to actualize, right? Turn into something tangible.
Because of your choices.
Not only just because of your choices, but because your choices were met with opportunity. So it's not taking it away.
Okay,
Right?
but also.
So it's like your choices
Okay.
matter, right?
But-
the thing is, this is the both and.
I
Your
got you,
choices
I got you.
matter, but it's like, listen, for me, I know all the things that I've achieved was because of my personal choice, but and I also understand all the things that I've achieved came from somewhere. And the
Yeah.
thing is, if you don't live in between both lines, you're not really living.
Yeah.
You're sleeping.
Whoa, hang on, hang on.
I'm
Dude, hang on. If you're not living between both lines, you're not really living. You're
Yeah.
sleeping, dude. That's a Willism right there, man. All right, do we have one from the street? All right. This is great. Jennifer and Stephen both asked, how do we learn to keep trying after multiple failures? And how do you make a failure into a teacher instead of a dark place in your life? Dude, that's a thing. That's something that I would say.
Resilience.
This resilience that's very hard to teach. And a lot of those kids in your neighborhood or my neighborhood who didn't go to college, it's because you have these failures and you can't, it's hard to just keep going. You know what I mean? Like how do you do that? You just.
Well, yeah, no, this is a really good thing, right? Because like, here's the thing, resilience, some argue it's like, more so natural, which is, not a choice, but some argue it's also really learned, right? I lean in the camp that it's learned, right? But I'm actually gonna go into a different camp right now, like the camp of psychology really quick. Any psych majors here? Has anyone heard of the phenomenon called learned helplessness? Yeah, y'all are really excited, right? So basically, for those who don't know, it's the idea that when you are met with continuous failure, obstacles, time and time again, what the research shows us is that most people will give up regardless of circumstance, income, race, whatever, right? It's learned helplessness. There's studies about it. You can look it up, right? So when we talk about this issue of resilience, we have to look at it from, yes, the choice perspective. It can be taught. We can be taught to use failure as lessons, right? But how do we teach resilience is about understanding external factors that allow people to become more resilient, the mindsets that allow people to become more resilient, and then like generalizing that and spreading that away.
Okay, so here, I want to add something here, though. One of the really important messages of classical conservatism,
Yeah.
right, is the idea that learned helplessness also comes from holding people's hands and helping them along and not giving them the opportunities to fail and then have to pick themselves up.
Yeah.
And so we're constantly picking them up.
Yeah,
So things like,
people.
a couple of weeks ago in here, we had a class and it was just titled welfare. So people are like, welfare is teaching learned helplessness. It's like, what are you doing? Yo, man, you're going to have to just go. You got to keep going. You got to keep going. All right, man, bro. Do we have another one from the stream? But go ahead, man.
Yeah, it was.
Wait, can we just do this really fast? Whopper from the Netherlands says, free will and determinism, a Western way of thinking, focusing on social sciences. Yep. How does Daoism change this way of thinking? Listen, man, Whopper.
Part of a natural
Daoism changes it because you meditate on how free will and determinism are the exact same things. And you meditate on that and you live with it and you're breathing it day in and day out, and it becomes who you are, and you don't even see the difference between free will and determinism, which is why Daoism is so valuable as a perspective. Dude, go ahead.
I kind of lost it a little. I think I got it. It was basically that we were talking about a few minutes ago, like, was it your choice or was it anyone's choice? For example, that your parents told you that you should strive to work hard. Was it their choice, or because no one raised their hands, then that's what they're supposed to do? And for me, it's a question about causation versus correlation. So, for example, is the fact that all these immigrant parents have told us to work really hard simply a thing that was meant to happen, therefore it's not their choice? Or is it simply that all their factors aligned and they all made that same choice? Or when we said, was it really a choice to go to college?
Yeah.
Could I say, no, it's not a choice because all of us did it, so we all said we had to go? Or can we all say, we are all correlated in going to college, but it was a choice for every single person to go here?
Yeah, that's right, because there are other children of immigrants whose parents were hammering them to go to college, and they're not sitting in these seats. In fact, they didn't go to college.
So because something's statistically likely doesn't mean that it wasn't a choice made by a person.
Yeah,
for sure. I mean, what I'll tell you is, like, right now you're asking good questions and you're thinking about this on a deeper level, right? And when we look at the data, that's the goal of sociologists and the social sciences, to like understand the data, to understand what's correlation and what's actually really causation. So I'll invite you to continue to think about that. Right? If everyone makes the same choice, is that a chance?
Yeah.
Right? What does that mean?
I like that. We have another question from the UK. Actually.
That's fun, right?
How many people do you think use their situation as an excuse for not achieving things? Dude, probably too many. Yeah, and we all do it. Like when you don't get an A, when you don't do really well on my exam, on the exam that's coming next Tuesday, when some of you don't do really well, you're gonna have a reason for it. Gonna have a reason, because it's really difficult just to say, man, I really screwed up. And like Sam said, if you study for this and you pay attention while you're watching videos and read, you're gonna do really well. But I didn't do really well, so you're gonna have a reason. Because you are. And it's not necessarily even an excuse, but it's a reason. And once you put the reason out there, it can morph into an excuse very quickly. We all do it.
No, but it's like even the idea, even the word excuse, man, right? Like, I'm going to go back to the concept of excus-iology, right? In psychology and the social sciences, we explain behaviors. And people are like, stop making excuses for people, man. They failed. And it's like, bro, we cannot be free unless we understand the things that cause behaviors.
Yeah.
Right? You're not free unless you're on this side of the line. If you really even
No,
try
no, no.
to be free.
No, you're not free if you're not on the line.
No, but I'm saying they're not even free if you haven't even.
If you never go
you
back
don't even
here.
understand what's
Yeah,
on
yeah,
this
yeah.
side.
Yeah.
And you think everything's a choice.
Yep.
Yo, you don't even know what real freedom is. If you think you're free,
Dude.
then you don't know what freedom
Yeah.
is. And the thing is, this lecture isn't even long enough because I've
Yeah.
studied this for 5 years here at Penn State because I loved it so much. You don't even know yet.
Yeah. You're, dude. I love that, man. I can't wait till Lori watches that.
Oh my gosh.
Yeah.
Yeah. And it's like,
This is it, and this is where I struggle sociologically because I talk about this stuff, especially talking about a race class and talking about these incredible income and wealth differences between groups, and people will sometimes critique me for practicing excuse-iology.
Yeah.
No, I'm just being a sociologist,
Being a
man.
sociologist.
I want to know which ones of you, those of you who have drinking problems, you can't control your alcohol.
Right.
And I want to know, yeah, man, why is that? And someone would be like, because you're just an idiot.
Right.
And you don't know when to stop. And I'm like, no, it's not because you're just an idiot. Maybe you have a biological condition, predisposition toward alcoholism. Okay, but maybe there's some other things involved, and I want to know those other
Right.
things. Okay, listen, man.
Let me.
You got to do your pitch.
I'm gonna do the quick pitch, but I want to end on a positive note, right? Because we had a whole conversation. I'm gonna do it in just a minute before I talk about the organization. So there's this concept in psychology called depressive realism, right? In which the idea is that people who have a very accurate understanding of how unfair and unequal structurally the world is tend to be more depressed, right? And have this learned helplessness phenomenon. However, what I will say is what they find is you're better off believing in your personal merit, right? Even if it's an illusion, because the research shows that it will make you achieve better, it will make you more hopeful, and it will make you just have better life outcomes, even if it's an illusion, right? So let me end on that note.
And let me tell you what the illusion is. Those of you who have credit cards from your parents, and you use that credit card to buy things, your personal merit is an illusion, my friends. Okay? That credit card, you didn't earn that. You were given that. And you got it by chance. So there you go. There's one. All right, listen, man. We have to stop. We have 2 minutes to make your pitch.
I'll do it even quicker in 2 minutes. Listen, one of the things that I did right after undergrad that changed my life was I did a program called Teach for America. What is Teach for America? In short, the things that we speak about in this class, about inequity and society and culture and race, this is an experience that allows you to have a hands-on immersion in that. So what Teach for America is, it's a career accelerating launch pad. What we seek to do, we're trying to find passionate young people that really want to make an impact. We want to give you a hands-on experience to make an immediate impact while developing your leadership, right? We offer you the opportunity to serve as a teacher leader. This is the core member program for 2 years after you graduate. It's full-time, full salary, full benefits, right? We help you pay for your master's in education, right? We have connections with graduate schools, law schools. The idea is that by understanding inequity in this country firsthand, it will make you a better leader, right? For those of us who are not seniors, we have the Ignite Fellowship, which is a part-time internship where you can tutor students virtually online during the spring semester. 3 to 5 hours a week, you get paid up to $1,200. What we're trying to do, we're trying to create more opportunity to give more kids the ability to choose a better future, right? So please, what I'm gonna ask you to do, take out your phone and scan this QR code. Just fill it out really quick.
Do this for this guy, because he's so awesome, and his payment for coming to class would be you guys scanning the code and doing what?
Yeah, and filling out your information. If you're not interested in any of the boxes, just leave them unchecked and just click submit. But I just gotta have proof of life that I was up here today, right? Right. So just take just a minute.
And it's cool, man. If you think you could be any background, any major, and get a job with Teach for America.
Any major, it's just 2-year commitment. We help people go to law school, medical school, get their PhDs, graduate schools, therapists, counselors, business school.
And
we're really a career accelerator.
Yeah, and you don't have to be as cool as Will here. So
yeah, you could be twice as cool. Or half as cool.
His students, the first year tore him apart because he's a geek. All right, all right. Let's go. Hey, by the way, can we have a round of applause for? Hey, also the TFA information is on the front page of the website.